Thank you very much. A very warm welcome. What we are going to do here now is to talk to someone who represents the interests of not just software IT companies from India, but actually India, because without the IT revolution, we wouldn't be where we are. And what I want to do, Sindhu, in the next 10-15 minutes that we have is to focus on the role of women in tech, particularly in the world of AI. While we used to talk about how we could work on current corporate structures to ensure greater representation for women on boards, in the workforce, AI doesn't bother about who you are, your gender, caste, color, creed. And to start that, do you think AI is a clear and present danger for women, not just in the tech workforce, but overall?
Now, first of all, Siddharth, and awesome being here, and so grateful to you, Siddharth, and the entire group at Business Today to create such a fabulous platform for not just women, but I think for all of us, right? I mean, not to exclude any of the men in the room. No, I think it's conversations like this are super important, and I was super inspired by listening to many of the powerful women with so much of content and kind of also the, how would you say it, the power that you could kind of, that you all shine through when you were sitting here. And to your point on AI kind of literally changing the game, Siddharth, on the contrary, right? I mean, we have a massive opportunity now to exactly address some of those points that Devina and all of you were speaking about, because today with AI, right, I mean, you have the opportunity to go deep into the society, to bring women, no matter where they are, in which part of the world, which part of India, to participate in the economy that we are all part of. Now, what is also important to keep in mind is how we are working on when we are talking about relevance of AI, when we are talking about the reliability of AI, and the responsibility that we build into the data that is used to train our algorithms. And that is where the participation of all of us becomes very important in how that data feeds into the systems. But if it's done in the right way, I think this is an absolute game changer, and we are seeing that today as well.
Absolutely, and you are right. In fact, you hinted towards it. I'm going to keep that under cover till we actually unveil the new cover, because the tagline, ladies and gentlemen, will mean a lot. At least that's what I believe, and I hope you appreciate it. But moving beyond AI, if I were to ask you to describe the state of women in the tech space in India, has it improved over the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or since when the tech revolution started in India?
I can just reflect upon my own journey in technology, right? When I started off back in the late 90s, Siddharth, there was very few women role models that you could look up to, especially in technology, right? I don't know how many of you would agree with me here in this room, but that's the case. But today, if I just fast forward to where we are, that has changed significantly. But have we done everything that needs to be done? No, we still have a long way to go, right? I mean, if I just look at the data points, today in tech, we're talking about 33% of the women in the workforce supporting tech roles. But if I just look at women in management roles, we're talking about 25%. So there's a significant rung that we need to cross in that ladder, right? And this is where I think all of us, again, as organizations, platforms like this, as individuals, have a role to play to really look at how do we create those opportunities, how do we create those initiatives, how do we make sure that we leverage technology again in the right way to make sure that women can participate. Because otherwise, we are very biased in terms of the solutions that we build, right? So we have an absolute call to action, if you may will, to really change that status quo. And today with technology, we have the chance to change that status quo.
Changing that status quo, and just for all of you to consider, since we are at the National Stock Exchange, when we were going through this exercise of coming up with a list where women CEOs are driving change in the companies, we realized that in terms of the total number of women who lead listed companies in India, it's still a small number, and I think there is a lot of scope to grow on that. But let's come back to the tech space. You go around the world and India championing India's status as an IT superpower, the GCC being just one.
Say tech superpower.
Tech superpower. That's the better way to put it. In terms of the longer term targets for Viksit Bharat by 2047, what kind of role do you see the tech sector playing in India's growth? And if we need to reach to those targets that have been spoken about, what all needs to be done starting now?
Yeah, I think that's the, I mean, if you just look at few things, right, what India is getting right. And I think in the last decade, if I look at things on how things have shaped up, there are three things playing to our advantage, Siddharth. One, I think it's absolutely clear our demographic strength, right? There's no doubt about that. The second aspect is our digital maturity. I think that as well, there's absolutely no doubt about that. The third piece, I think, which has changed, and particularly in the last decade, is also the trust that we've gained from all over the globe, right? And you mentioned GCCs and the kind of growth that we are seeing with the global capability centers here in India. Now, if I just touch upon each of these points, the demographic strength, right? I mean, if you think about we have a nation of 1.48 billion people, and if you just look at 65% of our population are below the age of 35. Which makes us a very young and a very ambitious workforce, right? And also, if you just look at some of the stats out there, we're talking about 100,000 startups as we speak, 110 plus unicorns as we speak. We're talking about a $5 trillion economy on the horizon by 2047. We are talking about one of the fastest growing digital economies in the world. In fact, 87% of the transactions in India are digital transactions, right? So that's a big part of the growth. The second piece, if you just look at our digital maturity, I think India has absolutely proved what it means to build inclusive technology. If you just look at our digital public infrastructures, be it the unified payment interface or the open network for digital commerce, or if you look at Aadhaar, one of the largest digital identity solutions out there in the world, we're not talking about using these solutions for just one strata of the society, right? I mean, UPI opened the game for literally everybody out there. Similarly, we'll see that kind of revolution happening when we talk about open commerce. I mean, we have more than 300 million sellers on ONDC today, right? And those numbers are only going up as we speak. So we've as a nation, we have also understood how do we build public infrastructures, but very, very in an inclusive manner. And these are not just national success stories, these are global success stories. And the third piece, which I want to come back to, is the trust. I mean, we saw the recent investments that, say, the Microsofts, the Googles of the world, I mean, my own hat at SAP, I mean, the kind of investment that's happening in the nation.
And that number, just to interrupt, please take pause, $65 billion announced in a matter of what, 72 hours or thereabouts?
Exactly, and that's the power of the growth that we're talking about, right? And what we're also having a very stringent focus on at Nasscom is to also drive that IP creation from India for the world and to make India a product nation. And this is why this whole focus on entrepreneurship, product management, that focus on tech, getting women into the workforce all becomes equally important to get to those numbers.
You've given me so many questions, so I'll try and keep it quick. Earlier you mentioned startups. Offhand, are you able to tell our audience that how many of these startups, for example, that you may be aware of are led by and founded by women?
I mean, I can just speak from my experience at SAP, right? We had an entire cohort that we had just last year of only women-driven entrepreneurs that we brought in. And these were enterprise tech startups that we brought in, who really complement the areas when it comes to core finance, when it comes to core supply chain, when it comes to areas around spend management, when it comes to areas around human experience management, customer experience. And it was absolutely phenomenal when we went through those rounds of identifying the women entrepreneurs. I mean, we had so many, and it was so tough to kind of pick the right ones for the areas that were complementing our business. So I think we're doing phenomenal, but can we do better? Absolutely, yes.
Okay, let me ask you a broader question, and this is an industry question. Till recently, there was a sense of doubt within all those who are IT analysts and the wider community about the future of Indian IT. With this $65 billion, people have seem to be overcoming a doubt about the outflow of FPI and FDI is coming back. But for Indian IT industry, what kind of future do you foresee? Are the dark clouds kind of dissipated?
No, on the contrary, I mean, I think you refer to also how some of the technology changes, the pace at which technology is changing. And I think one thing which we are doubling down, Siddharth, is also how we are bringing up our young talent. Because finally, no matter the GCC growth or the tech growth that we see in the nation, the biggest USP that we have as a nation, I called out earlier as well, is our young talent. And what is key in these times when we are talking about a lot of displacement of roles with technology, particularly with AI, is how are we equipping the youth to really have those core domain skills, have those problem-solving skills, those design thinking skills. And that is where we're really focusing on changing also the ecosystem around us, working very closely with the corporates, with the government, with the academia to really drive that future-ready workforce, which helps us to grow our $300 billion tech industry to even greater heights.
Since you said future-ready workforce, one of the worries that a lot of parents and engineering students have is on the H-1B front. As the chairperson of Nasscom, how worried should we be about the winter that seems to have set in on the H-1B route?
I'd say the answer is simple, right? India is the place to be. Now, this is the brilliant opportunity for all our folks to come back to India, create those roles here, because finally, if we want to reach our Viksit Bharat ambitions, we need a lot more of job creation here. And I mean, this is the perfect time. I spent 18 years of my career in Germany and moved back in end of 2019. And I have to tell you, I mean, this is the perfect time to be in India. So forget the H-1Bs.
Okay, that's a perfect ending for this short but fantastic session. Sindhu Gangadharan, thank you very much for your time with us. Today, a round of applause for the lady who leads Nasscom.
Thank you so much, Siddharth.
Warm round of applause, and thank you so much, Sindhu, and thank you so much, Siddharth. May I please request you to stay back for a nice photograph, please?